All right, welcome to this investigative explainer. Today we're doing something really fascinating. We're going to decode an ancient astronomical alarm clock, one that's literally meant to signal the twilight of our current age. We're digging into the Bhavishya Malika. Now, as you probably know, this is a massive, complex collection of sacred Odia scriptures, written over 600 years ago by the Pancha Saka, the five great saint poets. These texts don't just give vague predictions, they give incredibly specific celestial and terrestrial signs for the end of an era. And today, we are focusing entirely on one highly unusual, highly specific trigger. So let's just dive right into it.
We're starting with what seems like a mathematical impossibility. It completely defies our standard 15-day lunar cycle. You know how a normal lunar fortnight, a paksha, from a full moon to a new moon, takes 15 days, right? Well, the Bhavishya Malika records a massive celestial anomaly, a compressed fortnight lasting just 13 days. So why would a 600-year-old text obsess over this? Because according to these scriptures, when this anomaly actually happens, it's not just some weird quirk of astronomy, it's a cosmic siren going off. 13. According to the Malika, this specific number is a terrifying cosmic trigger point. In the context of all these texts, the number 13 pops up repeatedly to signal absolute major shifts. We're talking a 13-day paksha, 13 years of global conflict, a union of 13 nations. The texts explicitly declare that when a fortnight collapses into just 13 days, it acts as the ultimate catalyst. It basically says, hey, the time for a massive global and spiritual reset, it's right now.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The cosmic alarm clock, 2. Preservers of the prophecy, 3. The Mina Shani trigger, 4. Echoes of the Mahabharata, and finally 5. The final transition.
Okay, Section 1. The cosmic alarm clock, an anomaly in the sky. Let's open up our evidence board and look at exactly what this astronomical anomaly is and what the source material says it means for us.
So the Malika records that a compressed 13-day paksha acts as an alarm, announcing the end of Kali Yuga's spiritual decline. Remember, in this cosmology, time moves in these massive cycles called yugas. We are currently in Kali Yuga, the age of discord. But this 13-day paksha, it signals that we've officially entered the Yuga Sandhya. Think of it like a turbulent twilight threshold, this extremely narrow, incredibly chaotic seam between the dying Kali Yuga and the birth of a new golden age, the Satya Yuga. It is the ultimate transitional marker.
Moving on to Section 2, Preservers of the Prophecy, anchored in Scripture. Now, before we get deeper into the prophecies themselves, we absolutely need to establish how this 6th-century-old scriptural tradition is actually preserved. We're not talking about vague folktales here. These are meticulously studied manuscripts.
The texts we're looking at today are rigorously studied by Pundit Dr. Sri Kashinath Mishra. He's a highly distinguished scholar from the Jajpur Mukhya Pundit lineage in Odisha. For over 2 decades, he has literally devoted his life to illuminating these deeply complex Odia prophecies. He translates them, he explains them, and he does it all so they can actually be understood by a global audience.
And under his scholarly guidance, we have the Biswa Sanatan Dharma Seva Trust, also known as the Sudharma Mahamahasangh, working to propagate this ancient wisdom worldwide. Their entire mission is to ensure these texts are treated exactly as what they are, authentic scriptures. They're honoring the heritage of Sanatana Dharma and making this profound wisdom accessible, no matter your language or location.
The main takeaway here is that the Bhavishya Malika teachings have been heavily researched, preserved, and shared globally by Pundit Dr. Sri Kashinath Mishra and the Biswa Sanatan Dharma Seva Trust. It's really crucial to remember that they are the preservers and researchers of this divine voice, not the authors. The ultimate authority, that lies entirely in the 600-year-old texts themselves.
All right, Section 3. The Mina Shani trigger, activating the prophecy. The Bhavishya Malika makes it very clear that the kinetic phase of all this global upheaval doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It actually requires specific planetary alignments to basically strip the Earth of its protective barriers.
According to the texts, we are standing right in the middle of this timeline, right in the Yuga Sandhya. And they state that the primary trigger that actually activates this transition is the Mina Shani Yoga. What does that mean? It's the specific astronomical moment when the planet Saturn, Shani, transits into Pisces, or Mina. The text treats this transit exactly like a cosmic clock striking midnight. It initiates a period of profound, undeniable global vulnerability.
But here's the thing, this planetary movement doesn't act alone.
The scriptures explicitly state that this Mina Shani transit, combined with a double eclipse, so a solar and a lunar eclipse happening within that same compressed 13 to 14-day window, creates this deeply unsettling frequency that shatters geopolitical stability. And the absolute peak of this vulnerability? That's tied to the Krishna Paksha Amavasya, the darkest night of the waning moon. The Malika describes this total absence of lunar light as providing the perfect energetic window where regional defense networks actually collapse, enabling covert, totally unexpected military strikes under the cover of darkness.
This brings us to Section 4. Echoes of the Mahabharata. The paused war resumes. Now our investigation takes a really startling historical turn. This is where the Malika connects ancient, legendary conflicts directly to prophesied modern warfare. And it ties it all back to that number, 13.
It's absolutely fascinating to look at this historical conversion. The Bhavishya Malika reveals that the legendary 18-day Mahabharata war back in the ancient Dwapara Yuga was actually deliberately paused by Lord Krishna right before its final phase. Why would he pause it? Well, the scriptures state it was paused specifically so the final phase would resume at the very end of Kali Yuga. And here is the mind-bending part. The text states that the paused portion of that ancient war translates to exactly 13 years of global conflict in our current age. A 13-year world war that literally holds the exact same spiritual weight and rank as the Mahabharata itself.
Because it's effectively the exact same war resuming, the cast of characters returns. According to the text, the original heroes of the epic, including the 5 Pandavas and legendary warriors like Abhimanyu and Ghatotkacha, they've actually already incarnated into human bodies to fight in this impending 13-year conflict. And who are they up against? The Bhavishya Malika states they'll face a massive coalition, specifically a union of 13 countries. The source material explicitly names nations like Pakistan and China as being part of this modern-day alignment against India.
Now you're probably wondering, how does an ancient spiritual war even work in the modern era? The Malika describes a terrifying technological war. We're talking fighter jets, modern missiles, a conflict that escalates incredibly fast. But it explicitly states that these modern weapons will ultimately be neutralized, and not by better technology, but by the ancient power of penance, known as tapa. It says the perfected saints and sages of India will literally use their spiritual power to counter and completely stop the technological destruction right as it reaches its absolute peak.
Which brings us to our final act, Section 5, the final transition. Darkness before the dawn. Let's look at the prophesied resolution of this massive conflict and the dramatic planetary reset that the scriptures say comes right after it.
7. If 13 is the number of the alarm and the conflict, 7 is the number of the final reset. The Bhavishya Malika describes what sounds like a total physical impossibility, but it serves as the ultimate transition event before the new golden age can begin. The scriptures state that the earth is going to experience exactly 7 days and 7 nights of total, unbroken darkness.
During this devastating 7-day period of darkness, which is accompanied by heavy rain and massive atmospheric upheaval, the divine steps in. The scriptures state that the 10th and final avatar of Lord Vishnu assumes command. The Jagannath tradition notes he'll first be known as Madhav before assuming the mighty form of Lord Kalki. It is Lord Kalki who steps in, neutralizes whatever is left of the global conflict, and, incredibly, according to the text, actually establishes a new sun and a new moon to heal the earth and reset its climate for the Satya Yuga.
So the obvious question is, how on earth does anyone survive such an overwhelming cosmic and terrestrial reset? Well, the Bhavishya Malika actually gives a highly specific protocol, which is championed by scholars like Pandit Kashinath Mishra. It's called the Trikal Sandhya. It's a rigorous daily practice involving a 3-part prayer cycle at the key junctions of the day: early morning during Brahma Muhurta, midday, and sunset. By chanting specific names like Lord Madhav 108 times at sunset and reading sacred texts, devotees build up a spiritual shield. The texts literally promise that those who sincerely follow this path of Dharma are going to be completely protected by Lord Kalki during the absolute darkest days of this transition.
Which leaves us with this final thought. We've explored the mathematical impossibility of the 13-day lunar fortnight, its incredible ancient echoes to a paused war, and the profound world-altering darkness detailed in the Bhavishya Malika. So as we watch these celestial signs, the Mina Shani transits, the compressed eclipses, aligning exactly as the 600-year-old texts recorded they would, one has to ask, when that astronomical alarm finally sounds, will humanity actually be ready to cross the twilight threshold? Keep investigating, keep questioning, and thank you for joining us on this explainer.